Thank you very much, Patrick. Party conferences are an opportunity to set out the principles and practicalities of policies that should be implemented by our political parties. And there is no one better to do this today from a Conservative point of view than our next speaker, Jacob Rees-Mogg. Probably the greatest speech given at a party conference on the subject of the European Union, or the common market as it was then known, was given by Hugh Gaitskell, the leader of the Labour Party, to his conference in 1962. Gaitskell, even at that time, some 55 years ago, rightly identified the common market as a political union. He stated that if we joined, it would mean the end of Britain as an independent state. It would mean the end of 1,000 years of history. It was an immense decision to join, and an immense decision when the British people decided in our referendum to leave. Today, we have the opportunity to reconnect with 1,000 years of British history. In Jacob Rees-Mogg, we have a Member of Parliament who will not rest until this is achieved. And let us not forget, we could not have won the referendum without the support of millions of Labour voters. They wanted their country back too. The Labour Party fought the referendum campaign as a Remain party, and it is still a Remain party today. It is a great tragedy that in the general election campaign, we failed to connect with those Labour voters. Brexit means Brexit was simply not enough. Now our country stands at a crossroads. We will truly leave or remain shackled to the laws and trading procedures from which the British people voted to escape. There have been many other occasions on which our country has stood at the crossroads, none more important than in September 1939, when the House of Commons considered developments in Poland, passions ran high. When Arthur Greenwood stood to speak for Labour, the Tory Leo Amery called out, "Arthur, speak for England." Today, once again, we are at the crossroads. The call that goes out from this meeting is, Jacob, speak for England.
Thank you. Thank you. And Barry, thank you for that generous introduction. Though Kate Hoey, one of the greatest supporters of Brexit, would get very upset because I must speak for the United Kingdom. And when you were saying about 1,000 years of history, I thought you were going to say that I was there at the beginning, which wouldn't be quite true. But two initial points. First of all, we should be really pleased that people want to come to our meetings and engage with their ideas. It's a glorious thing about our nation. We are a free country, and we are not afraid of people holding other views to our own, because we think we can win the battle of ideas. We don't need to shout, we don't need to scream. We need calm, considered, deliberative discussion And then we can show people that conservative ideas and values are best for this nation. So let's always be willing to engage with anybody who is willing to come to our meetings. It may not seem easy to start with, but we will get there. And the second introductory point I wanted to make is that you were kind enough to give me a very warm welcome, for which I am very grateful. Thank you. But there is one man in this audience who deserves 100 times that welcome and that applause. It is Sir William Cash. William, will you stand, please? Because it is Bill Cash who, through understanding the detail of Maastricht, changed the mood of the country and the party. By winning the argument, ultimately we won the vote. And that has transformed our nation and has been a true lifetime service. And Bill has been my great political mentor, and I'm extremely grateful for what he's done both to help me, but also, more importantly, to help the nation. But now, as the bell tolls for us leaving the European Union, let me come on to what I was asked to talk about. What I was asked to talk about, the title, was the best Brexit. Not any old Brexit, not a second-hand Brexit, not a Norway or Swiss Brexit, but the best Brexit. How should we achieve that? And I think there are three things we should do to achieve that. The first is that we should be generous. The second is that we should be tough. And the third is that we should be conservative. So what do I mean by those? By generous, I think the government is absolutely right. Mrs. May is absolutely right to have said that we will do nothing that undermines the security of Europe. We should always be concerned about the security of our neighbours, and if it is within our gift to help them, we shouldn't allow petty politics to intervene. Brexit is very important, there is no question about that, but securing the borders of friendly nations within NATO, who also happen to be EU member states, is even more important. And we should be clear that that guarantee remains, and that if our police and security services have information that would be of any help to defeating terrorism in a continental European country, of course we should pass that on, and we shouldn't faff around negotiating about whether we're going to help them in those areas. We're not that sort of country, we're not mean-minded. And we've been right to be generous to EU nationals who live here, and we should be generous to them not only in fact, but in spirit. We should think to ourselves how lucky we are that 3 million brave souls crossed a continent to a country where they didn't speak the language, to work hard and take on jobs. They have made a great contribution to our society and broke no laws. They operated as the law allowed them to, and they did something courageous. To move away from your family to a country where you don't speak the language is a noble thing, and we as Conservatives should congratulate them for that and welcome them now that they are here. But that doesn't mean we're not entitled to take control in future. But we should be generous in both welcoming them as individuals, but also in the status we give them in the country, which should be the same as being British citizens. Shouldn't be better, and it shouldn't be judged by the European Court, but it should be as good as being a British citizen. And I think if we are generous in our tone, and again, Mrs. May was right in her Florence speech to make the point also made by my fellow panellists that we are leaving the European Union, not Europe. We're not leaving the EU because we don't like the smell of French cheese. We're leaving the European Union because we don't like being told what to do by an unelected bureaucracy in Brussels. And we're going to continue to enjoy our visits to European countries, to purchasing foreign products and importing them into this country. I mean, French wine comes to mind, but it may be Parmesan cheese comes to your mind, or German cars, or whatever it is. We want to carry on buying that from them because we think they do it very well, and that is in our interest. So, generosity underpinning the negotiations is, to my mind, crucial. but generosity with a titanium-plated backbone. And here I so agree with the panelists who have said no deal is better than a bad deal. We have nothing to fear. They need us. Without our money, they have a £20 billion or thereabouts hole in their budget under the current multi-annual financial framework. They're desperate to find that, otherwise the poor old Germans have to pay more, which the recent election results in Germany probably indicate they're not very enthusiastic about, or they have to take some money away from the recipient member states. They need our money. So if we walk away with no deal, they are in a very awkward situation. And so we don't need to be pressurized, we don't need to fit in with their timetable or their instructions, we don't need to give way on specific items, we mustn't allow any continuation of the European Court or new rules post-March 2019. I'm glad to say that I agree with everything that Boris has been saying recently. He has set out... He is another of the great heroes of Brexit without whom we would not be here today in this number celebrating that we are getting a Brexit in the first place. But even better, he's actually setting out government policy. But he does so with panache and verve and vigour. And this is wonderful because we've had too much crying into our soup and saying it's all frightfully difficult and we're only doing it because the British people want us to do it, rather than because we think it's a wonderful opportunity for the nation. And so Boris's red lines are fortunately government policy, but they're government policy put positively. And that's of great encouragement to all of us here at this conference. And in those negotiations, we should be clear about what we are not giving away on. We are leaving the European Union, and soft Brexit means remaining within the European Union. Soft Brexit is not honest. It is trying to undermine the result that we had last year. So clear Brexit is the best Brexit, and that requires tough negotiations so that we are not giving away things that come back to haunt us, so accepting new EU rules once we're no longer members of the European Council. That would be madness. No sane government would want to do that. Having judgments of the European Court of Justice a day after the end of March 2019 would mean that our superior law is still European law. That would not mean leaving. On the money side of it, well, we may want to make some agreement on money, but we must remember that under international UK and EU law, we owe no money at all if we leave without a deal. And that is a very strong position to be in. We must make the most of the strength of our position. So we should be generous, but we should be tough. Most importantly, we should be conservative, because that's how to create the best Brexit. You see, what we want as Conservatives about Brexit, and here we differ from our friends in the Labour Party who supported us, what we want is a Brexit in our image, a Brexit that enforces, reinforces, encapsulates Conservative values. What am I talking about? What was our fundamental basis for wanting Brexit in the first place? It's, ladies and gentlemen, because we believe in democracy, because we believe that the British people should be able to change their government, and that that government should be able to make the laws that affect this country, not some international body. But further than that, why do we believe that? We believe that because we believe the millions of individual random decisions made by people across the country every day are better than the decisions made by bureaucrats for them. We believe in a society that is built from the bottom up, with people making choices about their lives, decisions for themselves, and from this come Conservative views. We believe in lower regulation, an effective regulation, not mass regulation, because we think most people are sensible and can do things for themselves. We believe in lower taxation. Why? Because it's your money in the first place, not the state's, which generously, benevolently allows you to keep a little bit of it. And so when we're thinking about a best Brexit, a true Brexit, we're talking about what Patrick Minford is saying. We're putting the consumers first, not the oligopolists. Now, why doesn't the CBI like Brexit at all? It doesn't like Brexit because it's funded by large businesses who benefit from the regulations which keep competition out. And we don't want that because we want more competition. Why? Because that benefits people within this country the most. It lowers prices, it improves standards of living. The same is true with the whole swathe of protectionism that keeps out cheaper, competitive goods that people want to buy. And who am I to tell you that you shouldn't have chlorinated chicken if you want it? As far as I'm concerned, you can have as much chlorinated chicken as you like. You should be free to choose because, ladies and gentlemen, you will make a better choice for yourselves than I will make for you. So that's our message. Brexit is this fabulous opportunity. It's an opportunity for us to prosper, for our economy to grow, but most importantly, it is an opportunity to put the country back to its first principles, that we believe it is a bottom-up society built by individuals deciding things for themselves, who come together as a society, send representatives to Parliament who report back to them, and that is the best way of building a strong society. So as the negotiations go on, yes, we must be generous, yes, we must be tough, but we must look to that great aim of ours, which is building a successful, prosperous society which will be based on conservative principles. And if we can achieve that in these negotiations, then Jeremy Corbyn will be yesterday's news. He will be having fish wrapped in newspaper headlines about him. That will all that it will be. It will go. But we will need to do that on a principled basis.
You didn't frankly have the balls to put country before party.